I'm going to record this and I'll show you where you can find these recordings later. It's not a video recording of you all, it just records the screen and voices. Alright, so first, I want you to go into your dashboard. You may have known this already, you may have not, but I'm just going to show everyone so we're all on the same page. You should see these 3 dots somewhere on your dashboard. If you click those 3 dots, you should be able to change this from card view to list view. Now, this is mine, so you can see my upcoming assignments, but for you, you can see any upcoming assignments for all of your classes all in one place. So that is one way you can find those. If you ever want to change it back, just go to the 3 dots, go back into card view. You'll also see them on the side as well. Upcoming assignments coming up, what's the other to do, stuff like that. Great, now you can go into the course. I didn't say this, but I do want you to try and follow along, do the things I do. If you get lost or need me to go back anywhere, just let me know. Right, so I'm going to mention some important side tabs, side links, sure, whatever they're called. If you want to take note of them for later, sure, do that. These are important for later time. One of them is how to schedule office hour appointments in Canvas. So I'm going to click on it, you can click on it, and then we'll go back. It just shows you a video of how to schedule appointments. That way, if you ever forget, this is how to do it. You don't need to do this part, but I'm going to show you what we're talking about. So in this, I'm in the calendar, and it'll show you that in the video, and that's just the actual calendar. Mine will look different than yours, but you'll be able to find appointments, set up an appointment, and things like that. I'm not going to play the video, but at some point I want you to watch the video so that you know how to schedule appointments in Canvas if you ever need me. So we can go back. Other important side links. Message Ms. Thorpe. That's a direct way to go to your Canvas inbox to message me if you have questions or absent, need this, need that, anything like that. I will try to email back as quickly as possible, but sometimes you'll email me at 10 and I'm already asleep or on my way to sleep. So I'll either answer it the next morning or I'll answer it in class if I see that. What was that? 2 other things I just want to mention on the side. If you scroll through, there's a bunch of things. Feel free to use whatever. I keep a bunch of stuff up there because it's from the Canvas page. But there's a Desmos in Canvas that will take you directly to a Canvas page, Canvas page that has Desmos embedded into it, so you don't have to go to an app. But you're welcome to get the app or use it on your computer. And then Delta Math is where you're going to be doing a lot of your homework. So that's a direct way to find it, to get to it, clicking on that. Okay. Questions on those so far? Great. Now we're going to go into modules. At the top of your modules, there should be a collapse all button. That way you don't have to go through 50 different modules trying to find 3 different ones. I'm not going to go into each one. You can play around with these at your own leisure, but I am going to reference some important ones that you should know about. One, if you're ever absent, go into the absent view this. It has good information on what you should be doing. If I'm not here, if you're not here, what to do, where to find things, it'll link it to wherever. So definitely utilize that module if you're not here. So instead of asking me, I wasn't here today, what did we do? You can go to that and it will explain all of that for you. If you aren't sure how to study for math, this has some really good tips. You can go in there, read through some of that, start practicing some of that. I also have one in class. It's a little hard to see, so you'd have to like come up here to see it. But that's more so advice from last year's class on how to study. So you can look at that, you can look at the tips. This is more my advice. Those are previous students. Use either or. So I was telling you that this is going to be recorded. The module recorded lessons, that's where you'll find all of the recorded lessons. It'll be listed by unit. So we're in the first unit. So go ahead and go into that just so you can see what it looks like. So the class recordings, the unit 1, and you'll see a bunch of different things, different dates, different classes. So you'll have to find your class. You can look at other people's classes as well. Same, sometimes I say different examples. And the words will be a link that will take you directly to my YouTube page that will show whatever the class recording is for today. So later, I'm hoping to get it up before 3. This class recording will be on there, so you can see what we did today. Or like if you want to go back, how did I find whatever, you can go back and rewatch it. I'm going to hit back. We'll go back to the modules. Did I give you all course calendars? A gold sheet of paper? No, so let's do that right now. I knew there was a class I missed and I couldn't remember for the life of me which one it was. Okay, so. So now we can reference the course calendar that I just passed out to you. Usually I'll give this out at the beginning of the unit. I didn't give it out on Monday. It's fine. We also didn't do enough for important time. Anyway, for the most part, this is basically what we're going to do every day. That could change. Dates could change. Events could happen. Snow days, all those things. So this is tentative, but for the most part it's accurate. But if you ever lose this or forget a date or want to know upcoming things, it will always be in the course calendar folder module as well. Not today, but when we start talking about flex days and we do activities, if you ever want to go back and see, okay, what were all the different activities we did, they will be listed in flex days. When we talk about retake instructions and how those work, you'll be going into the retake module. If you did not already sign up for your class codes, remember that they're on the board. They were on that sheet of paper from the other day, last week. They're also in the Welcome to Class resources. You can go in that link, find all your class codes, sign up for those. If you didn't do the introduce yourself discussion post from the other day, make sure you go back and do that in that first one, in that first module. Okay. And then I'm going to show you just some of the things in a regular unit module that you can find, look for, all those things. Course calendar is, again, in every module, so for the unit. There are things I'm going to skip over, but you're welcome to go into those, see what they are, vocab, instructions, links, stuff like that. In each module, there are separated lessons that have notes, additional practice, discussions, all these different things. So I'm going to show you what some of these things look like. So you don't need to go into one of these, but you can do them. So this is a sample notes page. On each notes page, there'll be whatever you need to do for homework will be listed. Most of that is just delta map, answer the poll, answer the discussion notes. Pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. There are blank notes, so if you ever lose your physical copy that I give you in class, if you want a digital copy, you can download those. It'll be the exact same from class. There will also be a Nearpod set of notes, so if you want to draw, because you can, your screens are touch screens, your computer screens. If you want to draw on your notes, there are Nearpod notes. There's always going to be either a video I did of the notes or a video related to the notes somewhere on the notes page. If I find other important information, I'll add it to the notes page. Sometimes they have that, sometimes they don't. When it says answer the poll, this is what it's talking about. Please try to remember to do this. That way I can keep up with, did this make sense to you? Do I need to go back over something? Things like that. Do you need extra help, extra practice, stuff like that? And then at the very bottom, there's filled-in notes. So if you're absent and want to just, or maybe you missed something from the notes today and you just want to go back to that, you can always have Canvas up and open with the notes if I'm going too fast or something like that to see those filled-in notes. Questions about the notes page or anything Canvas so far? I feel like I'm going like a mile a minute. Other things in a unit. There is additional practice. Sometimes there's Quizlets. There's always videos. Sometimes there's a Desmos activities. Sometimes there's a practice that I made or found and put up there. Sometimes there's a practice that I found from the county that I put up there. These are all, if you want additional practice or want something else to practice, that's what that's there for. You don't have to do those things. You are more than welcome to do those things. If you want me to check any of those things, you can come and ask me about those. But those aren't something I'm going to assign. Some of the additional practice will be the same things I give out in class. Some won't. It'll just depend. On the notes page, there was something about a discussion. So each lesson will have its own discussion. Each discussion is worth 2 points. Answer the first question, which will always be the same. What was one new thing you learned, or what was one thing you found interesting? And then there will be something else that you choose and answer. If you answer the 2 correctly, you get 2 points. It's informative, so it's not going to affect your grade, and only I keep track of it in Canvas. I'm not going to put it in the grade book. But it's another way to remember information. I talked about this earlier. The Delta Math is where you're going to do all your homework. So if you have not joined Delta Math, you need to do that. Because you will have homework due on Friday, which I forgot to put up, but I will do that. The code's up here. This will take you to the link to go to Delta Math. There's a sample video as to what your student page will look like. The Delta Math will also be informative, so again, will not affect your grade. But that is something I will be putting in the grade book, so you can see like if it was missing or you didn't do it or didn't do it completely, stuff like that. Slash your grades. You'll see like on the different advice stuff about Khan Academy. You guys kind of got lucky this year because Khan Academy is no longer really a thing. Previous years, I would give Khan Academy as a formative grade. I would assign some, and then you would go in and do it as many times as you wanted to get the grade you wanted. And I would put those in as grades. But something with the county, we can't use Khan Academy like that. So you can still access it. They say not on PWCS network or devices, but there's the loophole, so try it, don't try it, up to you. You can still join the class, the assignments are still there, and I'm not putting those grades in or anything, but it is still extra practice if you
automatically we put our school email?
Yes. Always use your school email, yes. Alright. In a unit module, there's also quizzes, so it'll say each quiz objective as well as each test objective, but the quizzes and tests won't be turned in on Canvas, they'll be done in class. And instructions and stuff on how to prepare for those and things like that. That is all the Canvas stuff I have. I know I kind of vaguely went over stuff. You're more than welcome to explore all those things, but do we have any Canvas related questions? Yeah, so they'll be in modules. So like for this unit, if I go further in lesson 1, it should say notes with detail, but usually it says notes somewhere, wherever it is. Other Canvas questions? If at any point you ever have a Canvas question, let me know. Alright. Just because we've been sitting down listening to me talk, we're all going to get up if you have an iPad and go plug it in. If you were using your own device, maybe just stand up at your chair to get some blood flow moving into your legs. So you guys can get up, go turn in your iPad to that part over there, make sure it's plugged in. Yes, sign out first, sorry. I'm going to see how much you know or remember, and then I'll give you the rest of these to fill out. A blank as a symbol, usually a letter used to represent unspecified numbers or values. Variable. And blank blank consists of sums and or products or of numbers and variables. So it's 2 things. I was actually trying to remember what that one was at the same time. Let's come back. The third one, a blank of an expression may be a number, a variable, or a product, or a quotient of numbers and variables. So when we were sorting the other day, we were sorting terms, different terms. This one's kind of redundant, so I'm going to give you this one. It's a variable term. Is a term that contains a variable. Right, what about this next one? The number next to a variable is called a coefficient. Yes. I always misspell this word. My handwriting is sometimes not the best. I also haven't written on a board in 2 months, so if you can't read what I wrote, just ask me. I'll rewrite it. Right, a term that does not contain a variable is called a blank term. Anyone know that one? I also write manuscript and cursive sometimes at the same time, so trying to not do that. Right? So then the 2x would be which type of term? The variable. And the 4 would be the constant. So it would only be the coefficient. This would be your coefficient, the 2 in your variable term. The 4 would be the constant. You don't really need this part, but I mean, give them to you anyway. In in multiplication expression, the quantities being multiplied are another one. Two things that get multiplied together. That's the end result. These are the factors. The factors get multiplied to be the product. I'm going to make sure that this part right, that I don't remember. I want to say algebraic. That was the second one. I was thinking expression, but not algebraic. So fill in that second blank, algebraic expression. And then the last three expression like x to the n is called a power, where x is the base and the n is the exponent. And then that bottom part, we're going to figure out which of those are the variable terms, which are the constant terms, and which are the coefficients. Does anyone still need this before we go back? Right, so let's do hands this time because we all shout out different numbers. I will get those with these. Give me one variable term. That's this. So, sorry, from this. That would be one, yes. 5x. Negative 5x, yes. So I'm going to box all of these in. Someone give me another one. Rose. 7x. And then, Hannah. 4x. Right? And then let's move on to constant terms. Yeah. Negative 1. Let's do this in red. Sorry. Lauren. Okay. 3. Positive 3. Alright. One more color. Coefficients. Cody. Say that a little louder. Negative 1. So just the number before the x, Alania. 7. Just the 7. And Kyle. So we have variable terms, constant terms, coefficients. As long as we keep those straight, the next couple of lessons will be a breeze. Let's go on to the next page once you have those down. Also, if you like color coding, if it helps you, feel free to grab highlighters, color pencils, whatever you want. Pens. Great. This can be you can all say out loud. When I say the word addition, what words come to mind? Add. Plus, sum. They're a bunch. Any others? So we can change the verb. We could say, I'm going to add this. Adding, added, added to, all those things. If what's another word for sum? Right? Add two things and trying to find the total. Any others come to mind? Maybe another. I can say more or more than. I can say increase, increase by, increase to, all of these.
Should probably have my notes out to make sure I'm not listening. But it's that's a good list. If we come up with more, we can add to it.
You have one, please. Alright, now let's do the same thing for subtraction. Minus. Decrease. I'm gonna skip over the line for that. Difference. This is less than. I'm actually gonna put it just like I did this one, less and less than. And two different names.
Adana. Say it again. Zita.
That's a good one. Withdraw. That's also a good one. Those are more like application words that you'll hear it, like withdrew from a bank account or something like that, and that's how you know it's subtraction. Any others? I didn't put the ED by 2, but that's also weird. Right. If we come up with some more, we will come back to that. What about multiplication? Product times. Okay, that is the definition of multiplication, so short. Product times, we have repeated addition. Say that again. Double. And we could keep going with that. Double, triple, quadruple, etc. Any others? We could also, I think someone said add here. We also multiply. Multiplied by. Any others? This one you may not know, but if you see the word of, so like 3 of 4, it means you're multiplying. But that's just if it's by itself. So if you see like the sum of, it doesn't mean we're multiplying and adding. It just means we're not. Alright, let's do division. Go ahead, let's do quotient. Quotient. Divide. Let's split.
okay if you didn't. I just heard your voice. I'm not going to put that, but sure.
Along with the fraction.
Okay. So and then we could specify half, third, fourth, etc. Product is only multiplication. Quotient is the opposite of that. Any others? I think that's a good list. I'm trying to remember if there were any others. You might hear like over, 3 over, whatever. Usually not under. You can say divided, divided by. Quotient of, we'll talk about those in a second. Alright, so 2 things you need to know moving forward. We are no longer using these symbols. They're wrong. It'll take a second to get used to that, but we're no longer going to use those. So multiplication, you can now use the dot or parentheses. So those are the 2 we're going to be using moving forward, dot or parentheses. And then instead of the division symbol, we're going to use fraction bar. And then be using that moving forward. Alright, some parenthesis phrases. These are like all of the main operations, product of, quotient of, difference of, sum of. So when we think about parenthesis phrases, when we start translating, we want to kind of group whatever comes after those words, product of everything else in parentheses, sum of everything else in parentheses, because that is telling us those things are being applied to this operation. Right? And there's really just one turnaround phrase. It is less than. Remember, that's subtracting. When I say less than, so if I say 5 less than x, it always means that whatever I said first is going to go at the end. I'm going to write that again. Whatever comes first will always go at the end, which is why it's called like this turnaround phrase. It always goes at the end. This is the one thing that trips everybody. So then we're going to go through some examples. Not all of them, but a good amount so that you understand how to translate back and forth 2 words and 2 algebraic exceptions. You'll often see something that says a number. It's just talking about, they'll either give you a variable, I don't know why they call it a number, but they do, or you'll make up one. So a number n is just saying n, more than 6. So what operation are we doing? Addition, how do you know that? More than. So what we're going to do for now, until you get used to it, is underline the operation word. Put whatever operation is like somewhere near it, that we know what we're doing. Are there any other operations in there? So just addition. So we have a number n, put n, we are adding 6. And that's all it's asking us to do. We're not solving, simplifying, nothing like that. We are just translating words to algebra and back. What operation words do you see in number 2? I heard multiplication, and what word tells us that? The product. But this also says product of, so that's one of your parenthesis phrases. So we can still put multiplication above it, but everything after we're going to put in parentheses. That's how we know those things are what's being multiplied. Okay. Remember that less than means whatever came first has to go at the end. So 10 is going to go at the end. And we know we're subtracting. And then we are multiplying 7 and f. So you can write this a couple different ways. You can write it with the dot in between. I'm going to write this a couple different ways. You can write it with parentheses. Or, if you don't write anything in between, that still means I'm multiplying. So I could drop both of the symbols completely, and it'll still mean multiplication. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, questions on that one before we go on? You guys choose the next one. 4. We want to do another one, we'll do another one, and then we'll move on to some of those. Alright. The product of a number and 10 increased by 1. What operations do we see there? Multiplication and addition. What tells you multiplication? Product of, so that's that parenthesis phrase again, a number and 10. Usually, and will separate the two things that you need to multiply, divide, add, subtract. And then, what tells you addition? Increase by. Right? So then, we're going to put our multiplication first, because that's the order in which it came in the sentence. A number and 10. It doesn't specify, so pick a variable. It doesn't have to be the same one as me. Whatever letter you want, I'm going to call it X. Now, even though it says a number in 10, usually you'll see the number first, the 12 digit first. So I'm going to rearrange those. I'm not going to put the symbol in it. You can for now, but we want to try to stop doing that eventually. And then we are adding. I'm going to give you like 15 seconds, and I want you to do number 5. Tell me the answer, and then I'll go back and underline stuff on here.
X 2 minus 7.
If you didn't use X and use N or the letter of your name or whatever, that's fine, as long as it still looks like that. So less than, the 7 has to go at the end. A number squared, the variable would be squared. Questions about that one? Try one more and then we'll move on. Try number 3. You have the answer already. Anyone want to volunteer their answer for that one? Let's see. I did see your hand. I just wanted to. You said 2/3, and then I didn't have the last question. You can put them just like that. You don't have to put the dot. That goes right back on that book. Some of you put it with the dot or parentheses. Either of those is fine for now. Alright, let's move on to the bottom. So now we are given algebraic-based questions and we have to write out the verbal. We're going to ask the question. Okay, hold that up. So these aren't as straightforward as these. These have like a, this is the answer. These are more like, if you want to say add and you want to say plus, or you want to say plus and you want to say increase, there's a bunch of different ways we could write this. No one person has to write it the exact same way. Okay, we'll do, we're definitely going to do 10. You guys choose one other one. You did all of them? Okay, good. Alright, so we need to focus on what are the main operations. What's going on? So don't tell me the answer, just tell me what are the main operations.
Multiplication and addition.
Multiplication, addition, and in this one it also has something being squared. So we have to have that, those three things in there somewhere. The multiplication, the being squared, and the addition. How we say that is really up to you. It just has to make sense when we say it. So you can give me your example and then I'll give another one, and then if you want to come up with another one, we can do that. Go ahead.
The sum of 5 and z squared is plus 16.
Okay. So let me write that first. You may have to read that. Sum of
5 and z squared increased by 16.
So I wrote this down so we can dissect it and see do we agree, do we disagree. So the sum of tells us what? We're adding. The sum of tells us we're adding. So that means what comes next, those two things we need to be adding. Is that correct? No. So we need to change this to the product of. Right? So now the product of 5 and actually this parentheses should be after. And z squared. Okay, now that makes sense. I know that 5 and z squared are being multiplied. Z is being squared. And then increased by is telling us what? It's adding 16, which it is doing. So now that makes sense. So we have to be very careful with our words that we're not mixing them up because one thing could mean something else. Okay. Anyone else want to give a different example to see if theirs also works? These can be as simple or as complex as you make them. I could have said 5 times z squared plus 16. That would work. We can use all the fancy words. We don't have to use all the fancy words. It's not a necessity, but you have to understand what they mean. Right? Let's do 10. So what all is happening? What major operations? Adding and division. So somewhere and multiplication. So we have to have all three of those things. I want you to take a little bit of time, try and see if you can come up with one, and then we'll talk about different responses and dissect them. You have one? Yes, I want to hear this. those two hands. Someone give me an example of what they come up with. I'll write it out and then we'll dissect it.
The sum of A and 6
So if we take this one and then we'll do one more. The sum of A and 6. Those two things are being added together, but is only A and 6 being added together? No. So here, because of this part, this is saying times this entire sum is being multiplied by this instead of the other way. So we have to fix that. You can do that on the book right there. Other thing, because of the order of this, it looks like this is being multiplied to the sum, and then this is what this comes. Let's say I'm going to call this B. Either like this or all of it. So I kind of get this vibe from this sentence. So we need to come up with a way that we can rewrite this. Someone else give me a different one. So then you have this part, A plus 6 times the number, but because of this placement divided by 2, so it's only this English is weird. So we have to come up with a way that we have this part, but everything is being divided. We could use quotient, but we would have to use quotient at the beginning. So we change the whole structure of the sentence. A little sloppy. The quotient of A plus 6 times a number and 2. Because that would tell us everything after the quotient of is what we're dividing. A is being added to 6. And 6 is being multiplied with something else. So we have to be very careful when we write these words. Right? Another way you could have written that is using what you had before, but instead of saying divided by 2, putting all divided by 2. That would change the whole thing. Right? All helps a lot. Do we have, yes? So you would just say anything that's not squared or cubed is being raised to the 4th power, or raised to the power. You would just actually say what is doing. Right? We are running long time. So let's go to this next page. We'll do a couple of these examples and then go back so you can fill out some vocab and then be done for today. So we're going to do 11 and 13. So because it's a real world problem, I'm going to go through and underline, highlight, circle important things after we read it. So let's read it together first. Mr. Martinez orders 250 keychains printed with his athletic team's logo and 500 pencils printed with their website. We have to write an algebraic expression that represents the cost of the order. So important information are any numbers you see, any directions, any specific information related to the numbers. So what are some important information you see here? Numbers, keychains. Anything else? 500 pencils. Right? So those are the important information. In the directions, write down the expression that represents the cost of the order. So in cost, are we looking for something where we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Adding, because it doesn't say total cost, but that's what it means. Right? And then the last thing, there are two unknowns because we know how many keychains and how many pencils were ordered. We don't know the cost of each. So we have to come up with variables that represent the unknown. You can call them whatever you want, or you can call them K and P. We have to define our variables. K and P up there, I have no idea what K and P represent. But if we define them, now I know what they mean, and I can use them in our expression. And when we define them, we have to be specific. The cost of keychains, not just keychains. I don't know what we don't know about keychains. So now we have our variables, we have our numbers, we know that we're adding. How could we put all of this together? Yeah, so you use different variables in that time. I'm going to use mine, but whatever variables you use, yes. The 250K or X or whatever variable you use, plus 500P or Y or whatever variables you use. And that's it. We're not solving, simplifying, anything like that, and it's not an equation, so we don't have to use. Questions so far? Let's do the same thing for 13. Mr. Bailey purchased some groceries that cost $D. So that one we don't have to define it because it's already given us the variable. He paid with a $50 bill. Write an expression for the amount of change he will receive. So what's important? Dollars, yes. $50 bill is important. And what are we looking for? So in that question, what operation are we using? Subtraction. We started with 50, he's subtracting however much it costs to get the amount of change. We don't have to define variables because it's already done for us. So how would we write, or how would we put all of these together? Okay. James, I feel like you want to say anything. 50. You still need to use the subtraction and the D. We started with the 50, we're subtracting how much the groceries cost, and at the end we'll get the change. So word problems aren't so bad if we can dissect them and figure out what they're actually talking about. Alright. mention this, and then we're going to go back and do some notes, a little bit more notes. Your homework on translating expressions, all the stuff we were just doing, is due Friday. All of your homeworks will always be due on a Friday unless we don't have school, so like next week is due Thursday. Today, when you get home from school, or maybe you want to do it on the ride home, on the bus, something, you could do it. It's not that many questions, but if you need my help, you could come see me after school tomorrow to do all this things. So I just wanted to make sure we are all on the same page. You have homework this on Friday, then on this. Make sure you do it on Does Not. Sorry. So the homework is on Does Not. Right. Everyone, stand up and sit back down. Really nice. Just to get some blood flow in knees and arms and all those things. So. Nope. Awesome. Alright, this one is just a lot of vocab. So I'm going to let you write. I'm going to talk as you write. This is the very first few things. Once we finish writing all of this, depending on how long that takes, we'll do like 1 or 2 examples and then be done. Because we've done a lot. Okay, so as you start writing, I'm just going to talk through these. An additive identity occurs when the sum of any number a and 0 equals a. An example, a plus 0 equals a, or 2 plus 0 equals 2. An additive inverse occurs when any number a has exactly one number for which a plus a negative a equals 0. 3 plus negative 3 equals 3 minus 3, which equals 0. Or negative 3 plus 3 equals 0. A multiplicative identity occurs when the product of any number a and 1 equals a. Example, b times 1 equals b, or 4 times 1 equals 4. The multiplicative property of 0 occurs when, I lost my place. When the product of any number a and 0 equals 0. Example, d times 0 equals 0, or 5 times 0 equals 0. A multiplicative inverse occurs when any number a over b, where a and b do not equal 0, has exactly one number, b over a, for which a over b times b over a equals 1. An example of this is 1/2 times 2 over 1 equals 1. And 3/5 times 5/3 equals 1. The commutative property occurs when the sum or product doesn't change when the order in which you add or multiply is changed. Example, a plus 2 equals 2 plus a, or 2 times 3 equals 3 times 2. Does anyone still need additive, identity, or inverse? The associative property occurs when the sum or product doesn't change when the order in which you group 3 or more numbers when adding or multiplying is changed. Example, in parentheses, 2 plus 5, and then outside plus 3, and 2 plus on the outside of parentheses, inside 5 plus 3. Or on the outside 2 times, on the inside 3 times 4. And on the inside, 2 times 3, and on the outside, times 4. anyone still need any of the multiplicative? The distributive property occurs when any number A is multiplied to the quantity of B plus C or B minus C. Then A can be multiplied to both B and C, and these products would be added together or subtracted from each other. Example, B on the outside of parentheses times B plus 2 inside parentheses equals 5B plus 10, or B outside of parentheses times C minus 5 inside parentheses equals BC minus 5B. The substitution property occurs when any number A is equal to any number B, and A may replace B or vice versa. So, side note, substitution property is a little weird because it's really, if you know the math, you use substitution property. 2 plus 2 equals 4, substitution property. 2 times 2 equals 4, substitution property. So it's a lot of using our operations to figure out math, substitution property. Example, 2b minus 10 when b equals 4. So putting 4 in for b, actually substituting the value to make that 8 minus 10, to make that equal to -2. Or saying something like 3 squared equals 9. Or 4 times 6 equals 24. Those are all uses of substitution property. Anyone still need commutative or associative property? Okay. Then there are 3 last properties that you may have heard of, may have not heard of, and I'll give you like a brief example / definition if you want to write this down. Reflexive property is like a mirror. It's the same on both sides. I'm sorry, symmetric is more like a mirror. Reflexive is the same on both sides. So 5 plus 3 equals 5 plus 3 is the same. Symmetric is like a mirror. It's like when I look into a mirror, it's kind of backwards. But the order doesn't matter. X equals 20 is the same as 20 equals X. Transitive property isn't used often, but it is used. So it multiplies by them. But we'll talk more about that. Alright, transitive property says if you have one thing that equals something, and you have another thing that equals that same something, then you can set the two things equal to each other. So 2 plus 2 equals 4, and 8 minus 4 equals 4, then 2 plus 2 equals 8 minus 4. So all that really says. For sake of time, we won't do one of the examples that will be a warm-up for next class, but I do want you to answer this for me, so before you start matching up. Make sure you have everything written down, and then you can write this as you answer these, but on the next page at the very bottom. So these are real life examples of commutative property. Does the order matter or not? If the order does not matter, it's commutative. If the order matters, it is not. To put on your coat and to pick up your boots, does the order matter? No. Because the order does not matter, decided this is commutative. To wash your clothes and to dry them. Does the order matter? Yes. So that is not commutative. To put on your left shoe and put on your right shoe.
No.
No, the order does not matter. That is commutative. To hang up the phone and say goodbye. Yes. Because if I hang up before I say goodbye, then I'm not going to be able to say bye. So no. Putting on toothpaste and brushing your teeth. Does the order matter?
Yes.
Yes. If I brush my teeth without toothpaste, did I really brush my teeth? Okay. Hold on to these because you'll do a couple problems for warm-up next class on Friday. Make sure you start working on your homework, the Delta Math, for translating. If you are not getting my announcements each day, make sure you change your notifications in Canvas to do so you can see them. You guys can put your phones up, calculators up, grab your phones.